It's really cute, really sweet, really wholesome. As wholesome as a book can be about a guy that's teaching a girl how to fuck. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Alexa. I haven't done a recommendations video ever. I've done like wrap-ups, but I haven't done any recommendations. I always felt like I didn't read enough for me to give any good recommendations, but then I realized I can just give beginner reading recommendations. So this is the Books for Smooth Brains video. We'll talk about books that got me into reading, that are really easy to read, or like good books that will get you out of a slump if you just need something to switch it up. I think all of these are pretty basic. They've all been on TikTok. Popular books get a bad rap sometimes. I think they are popular because they're so easy for people to consume. So I feel like those are really good books to start with. So before we get into it, we'll go over like different tips that I have that helped me get into reading and helped me get out of slumps. I'm very much a mood reader and a DNFer. I'll ride that hill to the day I die. First one, read what you want to read, not what you think you should read, especially if you're trying to get into reading. School made me read books that I wasn't really interested in. The last thing I want is for reading to feel like homework. Anytime I've fallen out of love of reading is because I put a lot of pressure on myself to read classics, to read intellectual books, to read nonfiction. I don't want to read those. And the minute I started embracing the things that I like, the more fun I've had and the more I've read. Next thing, again, I told you I'm a DNFer. I think if you're not enjoying a book, just stop it. Stop muscling through it, pick up a new one, and maybe you'll be in the mood to pick it up again. Sometimes the books that you want to read really depend on how much attention span you have during the day or what kind of vibe you're in. The best thing that I've ever done for myself is to just take out like 10 books from the library at a time and then just bounce back and forth through them. I'll eventually find one that sticks. Another thing that's really helped me is getting into audiobooks. I never thought I'd be an audiobook person. I thought I was really bad at paying attention to auditory information, but I do think the narrator plays a really big role in whether or not I'm going to like a book. Just the sound of their voice, the pace at which they talk, and also speeding up. The pace at which they talk has also helped for me. If I'm doing dishes, if I'm cleaning, scrapbooking, commuting, anything like that, I'll put on an audiobook and then that will make the activity more fun. But anytime you want to read a book, try and sample the audiobook first. Half the time they make the book a little better. Anytime that I had to read a book and I had to look up words constantly, it was just a deterrent. When I started, I needed books with really plain and easy language, and when I was thinking about books that were easy to read, I thought of 3 different things that I really gravitated towards when I was really getting into it. One was pictures. If there was a graphic novel, it was really easy for me to just parse through. Second, again, short chapters, short page length, getting that little boost of, I don't know, is it dopamine? Serotonin? A boost of something. Knowing that I finished chapters really quick made the reading process more fun because there was like that sense of accomplishment that made me want to keep going. And then again, yes, the younger audiences, they often keep things really light and easy and the language is really easy to understand. I really needed them at the start. Last thing is surrounding movies and TV shows. So if a book is being turned into a movie, I feel like that's a great motivator for you to try and watch it, because one, when the movie comes out, that's like a good deadline for you to try and finish the book by. Two, if it's being adapted into a movie, probably because they knew that there would be like mass interest in it, or they found there was a lot of good material there. I feel like it's a good signifier that you should pick up a book. If you aren't finding any like book to movie adaptations that you like, I feel like if you just base your book taste off of what you like in movies, for me, I love romance movies, I love mysteries. Those were the genres that I was sticking to when I started. So those are like my general tips. Now we'll go into the book recommendations. Excuse me while I get this out. I need a drink. I feel like when you're starting to get into books, just a normal literary fiction plot isn't enough to keep you engaged. So sometimes you need some added wow factors or shock factors to keep you engaged. And the first one that comes to mind for me are thrillers or mysteries. I think they're really good at making you invested in the story. The whole point is to keep you guessing throughout until the very end, until the big reveal. When you're new into reading, you kind of need that push to make it to the end. So I feel like the first book that I read that really got me back into reading was I Am the Messenger by Marcus Zusak. I actually loved The Book Thief when I was in high school, but I knew I really liked his writing style, and The Book Thief was too long and too daunting for me to start, so I liked this one. It was like a 300-page book. This one's kind of a mystery, kind of a coming-of-age story. And this is about a cab driver. He's not living up to his full potential. He gets a card in the mail one day. It starts sending him on missions around his hometown that he has to accomplish. There is the whole question of like, what's his next mission gonna be like? What is the big picture here? What's going on? Why him? Kept me engaged, simple language, college. I think the chapters are pretty short. Got me into reading. I don't know, might get you into reading. And then the rest of them are all teen thrillers. Because again, tiny brain here, they just really get me. These are the ones that I liked, were really good for me when I was new to reading. Ace of Spades. This is about the only two black students in a private school. They're being threatened by some unknown person. Their livelihoods and their scholarships and their futures are at stake if they don't figure out and stop whoever keeps threatening them and keeps threatening to reveal their secrets. This book was really suspenseful, had really good social commentary, and it's also dual perspective, so you get to live the lives of both these characters. It has the dark academia vibe. We have another high school mystery. This one is One of Us is Lying. Don't worry about this. I removed the book sleeve. I don't like book sleeves, but anyways, this is about 5 high school students that enter detention, and then one of them dies in detention, and the one who dies is someone who runs a gossip blog. And upon investigating his death, they realize that the gossip blogger's next couple posts were about the other 4 students in detention, and it follows the 4 students in the detention as they try to figure out who framed them, if one of the other people in the detention actually did it. It's kind of like Breakfast Club. There's different tropes. There's like the goth, the nerd, the drag addict, the popular girl. Unlikely friends form together to try and solve this mystery. And again, YA, really easy to read. Short chapters, I'm pretty sure. There's romance, all that jazz. Good Girl's Guide to Murder, also being turned into a show. I read this literally within 2 days. This is about a girl who, for her senior capstone, she tries to reopen a murder mystery. It has a really fun format. You sort of read through the story as she logs her capstone progress reports. So there's a lot of like mixed media fun stuff going on here. This is definitely one where like all the payoff comes up in the end. Next we have, again, popular YA book. They're good for beginner readers. I don't know what to tell you. This is The Inheritance Games. This one's pretty fun all the way through. This is about a girl. Some really famous and rich old man leaves all of his money to her. In order for her to get the money, she has to live in his house. She uproots her life, starts living in this giant house, but all of the old man's family who didn't get anything from the will, they also live with her. Her life is being threatened. There's some really weird like loose ends about how she's connected to the man that left all this money. The man who left her all the money was really into puzzles, so you have a bunch of different puzzles all the way throughout that they're trying to solve to figure out all this information about why this girl's here. And of course, there's 2 brothers that she's romantically interested in, so if you're into a love triangle, here you go. When it comes to another shock factor, stay with me now, stay with me. I think smut is a good one. Sometimes you just need romance and action and no plot. I feel like a lot of new readers gravitate towards really spicy books. You're always reading for the next one. You're like, what's gonna happen next? More romance shows should take place in college. Like, why is Euphoria set in high school? I don't know. First one, tried and true classic, Icebreaker. Hockey romances are really popular. I don't know why. There's something about hockey players that girls love, me included. Sorry. This is a good starter pack. They have other books out. I think another good tip when it comes to reading romances is find sister novels. You don't have to worry about following the stories in a chronological order. You can just get whichever person in that universe you're the most interested in and start from there. This is the first one of the series. Basically, this girl, her partner, he's injured, something like that, and so he trains with her. His hockey team players like ruined the rink that she would practice in, so they have to share a rink now. Him offering to be her partner is like a way that he tries to make it up to her. Enemies to Lovers, really smutty. Like sometimes you just want to read about people your age. So yeah, college smutty romance. Another one that I read was The Night Shift. It was a Wattpad book turned to a novel. So again, I feel like if you're a new reader, you just need like to keep you engaged. So yeah, The Night Shift was also really good. It's about opposites attract. Like they fall in love instantly. This basketball player meets a girl that works in the library and they hit it off, and the girl's like really shy. The story also follows how she manages like getting over her fear of relationships. Very easy language to follow, so it's very good if you just need something that just gets right into it. Okay, so if you don't want like super crazy smutty books, so all of the books I am recommending do have spice scenes in them. They are a little more wholesome than just a straight up, these are college students that are horny and they're trying to get at it. So the first one that I really love was Done and Dusted. If you want a cowboy romance, if you want girl falls in love with her brother's best friend, this follows Clementine. She's a horse racer. She was in an accident that has her like really afraid of getting back on the horse again, literally. Her brother's best friend is a horse riding teacher and he helps her get over her fear. While that happens, they fall in love, and it's a part of a whole sister series universe. So if you're not interested in that one, there's other ones. I think think the third one's coming out really soon. I never thought I'd be into cowboy romance, but it's really sweet. It's like a small town, family oriented book. I feel like you can't talk about romance without talking about Emily Henry. She is the Taylor Swift of the romance writing universe in like not a derogatory way. In the same way where you can't listen to pop music without liking a Taylor Swift song, I feel like you can't not like an Emily Henry book. But if you don't like Emily Henry, I'm sorry, I understand. But my top three personally are Beach Read, People We Meet on Vacation, and surprisingly funny story. People We Meet on Vacation is being turned into a movie with Tom Blythe and the girl from My Lady Jane. This one is Friends to Lovers. This is about two people that meet in college and they go on vacation together every year until one day something happens at one of their vacations and they lose touch. The girl is finding herself in a rut. She thinks to get out of the rut is to reconnect with her friend Alex and go on another vacation together. This follows all of the vacations that they've been on that has formed their relationship, as well as how they're dealing with their relationship now that it's a little more strained. I think they're really cute, and I think Alex, the man in the book, is really sweet. I think he makes the book for me. If you want something less fluffy, if you want a little more turmoil in the characters' lives, there's Beach Read. Beach Read is really fun because it's enemies to lovers, or like rivals to lovers. They were rivals in college. January, who's the girl, her dad passes away. She moves into his beach house. The man who owns the beach house next to her is Gus, who is her college rival, and they're both in reading funks, and so they end up going, why don't we try to write books in each other's genres to get ourselves out of this rut? So he tries to write romance, she tries to write general lit fic, and they have all these hangouts to train each other and learn more about the genre so they can write a good book. Characters with a lot of baggage that are navigating their rut and falling in love. The last one is Funny Story. Emily Henry doesn't really write like tropey books. Funny Story is a tropey book. So Daphne and Miles each have respective partners, and then their partners actually fall in love with each other and leave Daphne and Miles. Daphne decides to move in with Miles to deal with this freaking breakup, and they're both just sad together. They realize that they should pretend that they're together to make their partners jealous while they're dealing with all this baggage together, like they're in the same boat. Low-key, they're just trauma bonding. If you're looking for something with a more fantastical, like magical element, I don't read fantasy. I feel like fantasy is really hard to get into as a new reader. World building's really slow. I don't have the attention span for it. I don't do fantasy, but I do magical realism. Magical realism is where they just take the real world and they go, there's magic that exists in this real world that we all know about. I really liked The 7-Year Slip. This one's about a girl, her aunt passes away and the aunt gives her an apartment. It magically skips time to 7 years before. She ends up meeting this man who lives in the apartment 7 years before. I don't know if he's a cowboy, but he gives Southern charm kind of vibes. You see this relationship play out as she's dealing with things in her current life and flashing back in time to see him. The way he shows up for her was really sweet, and the way that he shows up all throughout the book was very interesting. I'll leave it at that. I know I'm giving so many romance recommendations, but one that I just have to recommend is the Kiss Quotient series. Asian representation, autism representation. I think all the stories have really good premises. This is about a girl who has never dated before, so she hires an escort to teach her how to literally have sex. You see how their friendship forms throughout the book as they go on their little tutoring sessions. I'm blushing. I don't know why. I literally just talked about Smut. I don't know why this one's getting me nervous. But yeah, it's really cute, really sweet, really wholesome. As wholesome as a book can be about a guy that's teaching a girl how to fuck. Another wow factor I think makes a book really interesting when you're getting into books is the hot goss. Is this a story where I'm like really invested in knowing about the characters' lives? Is this something that I'd have fun talking to my friends about if they were like real people? What's the tea? Is there tea here? That's something that also gets me interested in a book. 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This is about an actress. She's not acting anymore and she decides that she's gonna write a memoir. She enlists this writer to go through all of her life as an actress and how she became a famous actress, as well as the 7 marriages that she went through while she was famous. And there's just big tea, big celebrity tea. Malibu Rising, 4 children of a famous actor. They hold a party every year, so this follows one party that they're hosting and all of the different people and storylines that are going on through this party. You learn about their upbringing, having a famous father. You see how the father's marriage with their mother worked out, the trauma of their childhood, flashing back and forth with what's going on at the party. It's just tea left and right. Yellowface. This book is about 2 friends. One's a white woman, one's an Asian woman, and they're both authors. The Asian woman is more successful than the white woman, and so the Asian writer tragically dies, and upon her death, the white woman actually steals an unpublished unpublished manuscript that the Asian woman was writing, publishes it as her own. You read this book through the point of view of the white woman, and there's just a lot of things and a lot of rationale that goes on that you sort of are just like, girl, what are you doing? I think this is a really good book to talk to friends about, just being like,
you would not believe what this girl did.
It's a lot of cringe, like there's a lot of like secondhand embarrassment that I feel when I read this book, but I think that's what makes it kind of fun in the end. And we have little fires everywhere. This follows two different families. There's one, they're very well off and they have 3 children, and then a single mother and her daughter move into the mother of the well-off family. Thinks that there's something off about them, so she tries to investigate their life. So you see these two families and their children interact throughout this whole book, and you're seeing how that plays out, as well as like different side plots about other people in this community. If you just want to follow along with just drama in a little suburb, this is it. This is the one. I have a silly one. The Selection. It's a young adult novel, reads very juvenile. It's about a prince who has to choose who his wife is going to be. The only way that it works in this society is they have to do it through a dating show. There's different casts, so one person from every cast enters this dating show, and it's like televised experience, and you see all these girls compete to be the prince's new wife. If you just want a really bad reality show like environment to read in, The Selection's pretty solid. I'm not saying this one is the best book ever. I'm not saying any of these books are the best book ever, but I'm especially saying this one is not the best book ever. It's one of those movies that you know isn't really good, but like it's really fun, so you want to watch it every so often. Next wow factor we'll talk about is if it has a cool format. The first one that I love is A Monster Calls. Although I think it's targeted to children, it has a certain darkness to it that makes it feel a little more elevated. This is about a little boy whose mother is dealing with cancer. One night, the tree outside of his house turns into a monster and says, I'm gonna come visit you every night. I'm gonna tell you a story. Once I'm done visiting you, I need the truth from you. And the little boy's like, huh? Definitely get the illustrated version, not just a little story. It's what makes the story so much more interesting, and it really helps develop the atmosphere of the book really well. This is stunning. The best way that I could describe this book is if you've ever watched The Deathly Hallows, there's this like little story that plays out that's animated about like 3 different brothers. It gives the same vibe as that. If there's one book that I could wipe from my memory so I could read it for the first time again, it'd be this one. There's just something about the stories that are just so refreshing, and the way that it twists I really enjoyed. This is a children's book, but this feels like it's for everyone. And a similar book format like that, where it's not only a book for children, but it kind of looks like one because of the way that it's illustrated, is The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. It's about a boy who then meets a mole, who then meets a fox, who then meets a horse. It follows this boy's journey as he makes these friends. It's really simple. It's a little heartwarming story. I think I cried the first time I read it. I don't know why, but I did cry. Another book that has a really interesting format is Daisy Jones and the Six. I would recommend the audiobook for this one. It's really awesome. This is about a band who have broken up. This follows like the birth of the band and the demise of the band, and it's told through interview scripts. You're just reading these different characters talk about their experiences in the band, so you see how different people skew the story, how different people interpret their experiences on the band. And when you read the audiobook, they choose a different voice actor for every person. It feels like a podcast. Really good show. Another interesting book is Bunny. This one is about a girl who goes to a liberal arts college, and she falls in line with the cool girls, and they're low-key a cult, and you see the main character sort of lose their mind slowly throughout the book all the way until the end. And their cult engages in some like interesting stuff that the narrator doesn't fully explain, so you have to like figure out what's going on as well. I thought this was a really good commentary on what it's like to be a girl and to want friends and to feel loved. If you like dark academia vibes, this is also a good one. This definitely isn't as easy of a read as the other ones that I've mentioned, but it's really interesting. Sometimes you just need a short book. Normal People, really good show adaptation. This is about Marianne and Connell, who are opposites in high school, but they are really drawn to each other, and you see these two people orbit around each other from high school to university, and you see how their relationship forms and how they manage their relationship with each other through all of these different things and changes. This is a very character-driven story, and I do prefer the show over the book. If you want to read the book, then watch the show. This is a good one. I think the show's a really good reward, a good little treat to get into after finishing this. Kim Ji-young, born 1982, is another short book. It's about a woman who gets admitted into psychiatric ward. It follows the events in her life that led her there. Again, it's another commentary on what it means to be a woman in society. It follows her as she goes to school, as she works, as she finds a husband in South Korea, and you see how the standards and societal expectations take a toll on her and what brings her to her final breaking point. Want to read a book about what it means to be a woman in society? I think it's a pretty good one that doesn't make things too heavy. But again, yeah, it does talk about like the lows of what it means to live in a patriarchal society. Really, really easy reads, I think, are graphic novels. I personally think they count as reading. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I'm holding a book, I'm finishing a story. When I'm reading a graphic novel, I really care about the art style. If I don't find the art style interesting, then I won't want to pick up the book. And what my brain tends to like are more juvenile, playful, colorful color palettes and styles. I think Brenna Thumler does some really good drawings. My favorite of hers is the Anne of Green Gables adaptation. You get to read a classic and you get to look at pretty pictures. If you don't know about Anne of Green Gables, it's a very famous Canadian book. This woman and her brother need help on a farm, and so they adopt an orphan, and they expected a boy but they got a girl instead, and you see how this crazy imaginative girl uproots their lives. Anne of Green Gables also has a show on Netflix, Love Anne with an E. Season 3 really hits. She also has an original story, Sheets, which is about a girl who helps run her family's laundromat, and then a ghost ends up entering her life through there and they become friends. It deals with grief, so you get the playful and the sad, which was really good. If you loved Avatar: The Last Airbender, they have so many series, there's so many side quests and stories, and they're written by the creators of Avatar, so they stay pretty true to who the characters are and how they behave. I really liked the Zuko's mom one because I was just really curious about her. Lastly, Heartstopper. How many times do I need to say it? It's been turned into a show. It's a story about two high schoolers, two boys, and what happens when they meet and kind of fall in love. Follows their relationship with their parents, their friends, and their friends' relationships. So yeah, things like mental health, eating disorders, coming to terms with sexuality. I feel like it explores those things really well. And then speaking of young adult books, here are a couple that I really liked. I loved Flipped. Two neighbors. One girl has a really big crush on the boy, then all of a sudden their feelings flip and she's not interested in him anymore, and then he starts really liking her. I love it. I do think it's because I had a crush on my neighbor growing up and I like projected my dreams into this. I was like, oh, one day he's gonna have a crush on me and I'm not gonna like him at all. Blah, 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 blah. Anyways, great movie, book combo. Super sweet, super wholesome. This is about middle schoolers. Really cute. If you want to feel like you have a crush and you're in 6th grade again, be my guest. I Kissed Shara Wheeler. If you grew up in the 2012s, 2010s, you knew about the John Green cinematic universe. This is the first time I've read a book that reminded me of that. I Kissed Shara Wheeler feels like Paper Towns. There's this popular girl, everyone's interested about her neighbor's interested in her, she has a boyfriend, and one of the main characters, who's a girl, is also interested in her. And you find these three people who are all tied to Shara Wheeler and are all low-key in love with Shara Wheeler. They're teaming up together to find her because she went missing and disappeared and is leaving clues all around the town. To All the Boys, I think, is the first ever fake dating book I've ever read. Laura Jean, she writes letters to all of her crushes and never sends them, but one day all of her letters get sent and it causes chaos in her life. If you've ever had a K-pop phase, XOXO is the book for you. This is about a girl who meets a K-pop star in like a karaoke bar, doesn't know he's a K-pop star, and then she has to move to Korea to go to school. She realizes the boy that she met is a very famous K-pop star that also goes to school with them. If you didn't know, K-pop stars aren't supposed to date. It really ruins their image if they're found in a relationship. So she tries to hide her feelings for him, and you see them trying to fight their feelings for each other, as well as keep everything hidden from everyone else because it would be a big scandal if they were found out. And yeah, if you've ever dreamed of falling in love with a K-pop star, there you go. Today, Tonight, Tomorrow. Because I started reading when I was in university, I didn't really like stories that took place in high school as much. I liked a lot of stories about moving on to college, and this was a story about their last day of being seniors ever. And there's this giant scavenger hunt, manhunt thing around school. These two academic rivals, they team up so that they can try and win the manhunt. It's a big enemies to lovers pipeline. I love stories about goodbyes and closing chapters, so This one was really good. And I think they just made a sequel about what their life is like now that they're in college. And then lastly, my least favorite section, nonfiction. I personally don't gravitate towards it. Sometimes I feel like learning, so then I'll do it. For nonfiction, I don't have anything to recommend to you other than just read about whatever you're already interested in or whatever you want to learn about, whatever floats your boat. For me, I love design. So one of my favorites was a book I had to read for school. It was Miss Ranch. Super simple. It's about universal design. I also read one about just being a girl. I love girlhood. Everything I know about love. Big love letter to being a woman, being messy in your 20s. One that I had to read in school that I really liked, it was Night by Elie Wiesel. This is about Elie Wiesel. He had to go to a concentration camp when he was a teen, and this follows his whole journey throughout that process, getting in, people around him suffer, watching his family suffer. It's very short, it's very hard, it's really dark, but it was actually pretty beautifully written. And this isn't something I'm like, read this first, read it. But if you are very interested in World War II, you are okay with reading darker subject matter, this is definitely a really well-written book. What a sad note to end on. But those are all my book recommendations. I'm a smooth brain girl. If you're like, I need books better than this, I don't know, I'll read more. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned for more videos. Peace out.